Hi, everybody. This is Ben Allen. Today, I have the pleasure of having Leslie Jones join us. She's a coach, the founder of the Spiral Method here in Denver, Colorado. A couple weeks ago, we had CTLF hold an event with Stephen Kotler. He talked to us about flow, and as I was listening to him, it reminded me of what I'd heard about Leslie Jones' coaching style. And so I thought today it would be awesome if we could hear from Leslie firsthand what her perception was of that presentation that Stephen gave us and how it relates to what she's doing in her own coaching model, the flow. So Leslie, tell us about that experience hearing Stephen a couple weeks ago.
Oh my gosh. I was so excited when you reached out, Ben, because I did leave that or listen to that presentation and leave the presentation thinking, oh my gosh, it's really cool that the Spiral Method sets people up to be in flow. Fundamentally, everything that he talked about is connected to the Spiral Method, except for we're not exercising when we have a meeting and we're not sleeping when we have a meeting, right? But
right.
Pretty much everything else is actually happening in a Spiral Method session, which is a community practice. And I think we're getting into a flow state during the session, actually. Not only are we getting set up to go get into flow state when we leave, but it's happening while we're meeting.
So what I thought I would do is that the presentation, to be there, was awesome. It was one of those times where here's someone who knows how to deliver a PowerPoint presentation. It's an example of how we should all be presenting. But I want to pull up the slide that you and I were talking about earlier, Leslie, that how what you do relates to what he does. And we both agree that this would be a great starting point. So I want to bring up slide number 27 that hits a number of bullets. And I was hoping, talk to me a little bit about how Spiral Method relates to this high performance toolkit that Stephen shared with us.
Yeah, and just to make note, I know CTLF is going to send this whole slide presentation out to everyone. So if people didn't see the event, the slide presentation is very thorough. So let's see here. These are the 22 flow triggers. My understanding of this slide is that if these things are happening, you are in flow. And again, this was really exciting when I took a look at this, that when we're in a Spiral Method session, these are the things that we're practicing and that we're experiencing together. One of the fundamental distinctions, it's the first one up here, is bringing curiosity. Right, we're learning how to listen from a place of curiosity instead of judgment, assessment, opinions, arguing who's right and wrong, or trying to make a point or try to convince people to come on our side, right? Coming from curiosity is a whole different experience. Spiral Method is a system where it's built in. It's built in to practice curiosity. You can just look through this list.
I'll tell you one that hit me that is so appropriate for our culture right now is the unpredictability there on the left-hand side. Can you speak to us a little bit about that?
Well, let's see here. I think there's two things I want to name in terms of the Spiral Method. We have a little predictability during the Spiral Method sessions and some unpredictability. So I purposely, and I've made this a habit throughout my career, is to not tell people what's going to happen next, right? Because then they're listening. And we know from a neuroscience perspective, that's what sets people up to be present and aware and to be paying attention. Right now, when it comes to unpredictability, I think, what I'm hearing out there from leaders is that a lot of people are trying to help other people right now. Yeah. And that's awesome. And we want that. And what I know to be true is that one of our trauma responses, quote unquote, like being with the unknown, we go into fight, flight, or freeze. And I have a whole analogy about that I'll share in another video at some point. But one of the common responses is to go help everyone, right? Gather the wood, collect, and make sure this never happens again, and serve people. And I really am encouraging leaders right now to take the time and slow down and get your own house in order before you get out and serve everyone else. Right? And to pay attention how much of that is your own type A kind of reaction to the unknown, because it's kind of scary. Like we can't plan for a month from now right now.
That's right. I agree. I'm curious if you don't mind, do you want to touch on a little bit, what do you mean by getting your house in order?
You know, I had a conversation with Joshua Hunt this morning, and we were talking about making sure that we have a long enough runway. So Joshua helped me even think about a 1-year runway financially instead of a 3-month runway. And you know, some of our businesses are crashing. Some of our businesses are doing just fine right now. And those businesses in 3 months from now might not be well positioned anymore, right? So just accounting for the worst case scenario, not from a place of fear, but maybe postponing some mortgage payments. You know, looking at your lines of credit and perhaps pulling cash out right now instead of sitting on the line. So I think brainstorming with some of your partners on these items is really important. The other thing for me, you know, I have redesigned my schedule so that I work in the morning and then I do my workout from 12 to 1, and then I'm hanging out with my kids after 1 o'clock. And that I did that this weekend. It was like, okay, it's time to sink into the new world, right? Yeah. And the new world is it's not working 40 hours a week. It's giving up everything that we've known. So how do we all adjust to that? Important question.
Yeah. So bringing back to this slide, I'd love another example from you on the relationship between SpiralMethod and what we heard Stephen share with us. Do you have another item on here that you'd like to talk about?
You know, the one that just popped up is the risk. And it talks about on the individual side risk, and then on the group trigger side, it's shared risk. And what's fascinating about being in a community, and I think we all know this, when one person takes a risk, it gives everyone else permission to take a risk. And when one person pulls back, everyone else goes, "Oh, I better, maybe it isn't safe here," right? So what happens in the SpiralMethod in any group of people over time, we're leaning in and we're sharing risk, and then we begin to see that it's okay to take risks. And that level of safety and trust over time, it's so rich what can happen in a community when we're sharing risk like that and we're being vulnerable. You know, it's real vulnerability. We talk about vulnerability, but it's to experience that is just, it's such a gift.
So I'm going to pop off this slide and go back to just looking at you for a moment. I wonder if you could share with us, based on the conversations you've been having with business leaders, that I of course have anxiety, I of course have fear, but I do know that business leaders now and always have been called to set an example and really lead. And in this era, do you have any other suggestions that's based on kind of how you're coaching your leaders on how can I lead others in a way that's potentially inspiring, maybe provide some optimism? What are your thoughts around that for the leaders of Denver?
Yeah, I mean, first I want to acknowledge that what I'm seeing in our community, and maybe this is happening all over the world, but it you know, so much generosity and people reaching out to support right now. It's pretty cool to see that happening. I want to reiterate that, you know, going into fight or flight And as leaders, you know, I spoke with someone the other day who said he's putting his general hat on, and he has been very directive, demanding. Stress is really high. Plus, his people are all spread out remotely now. So I think the lesson is to come together in these new ways, like Zoom and whatnot, and be honest with what is happening with your own humanity.
Right.
And give other people the room to share what's happening. How are they adjusting? What are they learning about themselves, right? A 20-minute, in fact, I'm putting up, probably tomorrow, I'll put another video blog up about this, how to do an effective meeting check-in. And at least 10 minutes, but maybe 20 or 30 on the topic right now to just sink in.
Yeah.
And let everyone do that.
So that's great. The way I want to leave, because we're right now, just the coronavirus is all over us. My question I like to ask, that I kind of know the answer because you told me earlier, but what are you doing with your son right now to make family a focus? What fun things are you doing together?
Well, we are using glue sticks and stuffed animals to rip them apart and make new ones. We started today building a popsicle stick house. And nice. I told him I want a huge, like, we want to keep building on it and have a pool and all of that stuff. We've been at the craft table for a long time. He's making, popsicle sticks are great, actually. He's been making butterfly knives, and so they're safe and they're wood. And
right.
He's flipping them around all, like, so this is a kid who's on screens most of the time. And for 3 days, we've been crafting.
That's wonderful. Leslie, so much thanks to you for your time and for what you do for our community and our world. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you again for today.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for your leadership.
You bet. Bye-bye.